Hey dudes, this is B Junior from Endurance Productions YouTube channel, B Junior's Movie Cave. Coming at you today with a new couple videos. This might be a multi-parter, unsure at this point, but we're going to freestyle it and hope for the best. What I'm going to talk to you today, guys, is a little idea that's been kind of rumbling around the back burner of my mind for a long time to do this video, and I didn't really know how I wanted to put it together. But alas, had our first snow outside down here in North Kakalaki, and the first one of the season. And when you're kicking it in the man cave, you come up with ideas. That's right. The idea that came apparent to me, and I've been watching, it's about the evolution, if you will. Evolution of movie packaging over a trend from good quality on down to not so good quality. I've been watching more than my share of YouTube videos here lately, and a lot of my faithful viewers, also subscribers, and people that I subscribe to, I've been noticing these videos have been popping up here and there, and people have been talking about loss of quality and Blu-ray packaging, DVD packaging, all the standard video formats of the day that we're in right now. And so that kind of respawned the interest for this video that I'm going to do today. Basically what I'm going to do, I've got some visuals laid out on the desk below here. You can't see them yet. I'm going to show you. Be patient. What we're going to talk about there again is the evolution of quality in movie packaging. We're going to go back in time a little bit to start this thing off, to the war that was VHS and Beta. Yes sir, back in the early 80s there was that format war, and of course Beta with its probably better sound quality and picture quality. It still was a little bit more expensive to make, and VHS reigned supreme. We're not going to go down that road again. Look for my old video called Format Wars, and it'll give you some more insight on the different format wars we've had over the last couple decades. But more importantly, let's center on VHS first. VHS in its infancy came out in a big box format. Now, the representation of the big box today is probably not the most common, but it had a little extra character to it, so I thought this is just the one I pulled out at random. None of these selections that I pulled out to use for visuals today were done for any specific reason. They were just random ones that kind of fit the need that I pulled off the shelf at the last minute. What we're going to show now is the trend starting with VHS's initial packaging in the big box format, and go kind of down the years and show you where it ended up as being. The first one, of course, was the big box. Now look at this killer thing, man. This thing's huge. But with its big box, and even though it took up more room on the shelves both at the video store and later on in your home, it tended to protect the videos more. Most big box representations of movies packaging had a flip top or a flip bottom to them that you got your video out of. This particular one I thought was kind of neat. It's my Beastmaster from yesteryear. It's got a flip open cover with the cast and crew, or some cast and crew notes there. It's got kind of like the coffin style with little finger tabs that you can pull the tape out with. This tape is ancient, guys. It's got some miles on it. It's an ex-rental I bought years ago. Don Carscarelli's Like It or Leave It kind of movie from yesteryear. But take a notice, it's got the MGM United Artists logo kind of printed from top to bottom on the bottom there. MGM/UA. It's just kind of like I say, it's got a nice sturdy packaging. It's a plastic kind of vault, if you will, for your tape. And also notice on a lot of these earlier VHS releases, as we go, I want to point this out, that the VHS tape itself was a lot heavier. Yeah, some of them sported this brown replacement deal on the front if they got damaged or whatever. But they had better stickers on them that showed the title and the length of the film. They were just an all-around sturdier case, because you have to remember VHS in and of itself is working parts kind of movie format. You got your optical formats that came later, Laserdisc, DVD, and all that. We'll talk about that in a minute. But as long as you don't get them scratched, it's just a piece of plastic all by itself. All the inner workings are inside the player. VHS was a symbiote relationship between the tape itself and the player, where you had all kinds of springs and pulleys inside this tape, and all of them had to work together in harmony for it to work properly. So what I'm getting at is if you either dropped the tape or if you didn't have good packaging, you're pretty much out the movie. And back in the day, movies weren't as plentiful and cheap as they are now. Blu-ray's only been out for 3 or 4 years and it's already coming down in price. So, we'll talk more about it as we go along. But take notice, the bigger box tend to have more protective covering around it. Not especially this particular type with the flip top, but the bigger boxes with the folded tops on them. I mean, you could drop these bad boys down the steps, and more than likely, 9 times out of 10, the movie was going to be okay. I mean, you just pick it up, put it in the player, it's fine. But as time went on, it wasn't so. You lost quality in the actual plastic the tape was made out of. They become lighter and grayed, basically, and also the packaging around them, as you'll see as we go through these, just kind of went on the decline throughout the years. After the big rental boom of the VHS years there in the early to mid 80s, you started seeing a lot more of these clamshell type. They were about the same size as big box, but not really. They kind of scaled them down a little bit. Now this is a re-release from recent, the House of the Devil VHS kind of promo thing they put out, but it's a good fair representation of what clamshells look like, and a lot of them back in the day had the Gorgon video, so that's kind of why I pulled this one out. Clamshells were a good protective. I'm not going to open this one up because this is kind of like a collector's item. I haven't took the plastic off of it, so bear with me. But you can see the seams there, how they kind of interlock together, and it had kind of like a book style flap that went around the whole thing. See it there? Yeah. But clamshells were pretty popular after the big box boom kind of went out, and plastic became more popular than paper. So a lot of your older videos kind of switched over to this, and you saw this on a lot of shelves. It seemed to be as sturdy as the big box pretty much, but still had that problem. It didn't totally encase the video. If you dropped it, this thing could come open and the tape could fly out. So like I said, it was just a little bit step down probably from the big box in protection sense in that manner. So there you have it, the big clamshells that came later after big box. There you go. Now, before we get into probably the standard that was there for the last 15 years plus for VHS, towards the later years in VHS, collector's items VHS tapes started becoming popular right at probably at the inception of DVDs, first infancy, when it first started coming out. You started seeing some of these new age clamshells, or that's just what I call them. They're kind of a new version of the older clamshell. You can see the size difference here if I put them together. They're still a bit smaller, probably about an inch smaller, and probably a little more sturdy and still serves the same purpose. I like the little stands they added to the bottom there, the molded plastic, because the other ones tend to kind of break down over time. They would weeble wobble on the shelf and not look real nice and neat. And if you're a collector nerd like me, you want things to look nice and neat on your shelf after a time, especially if you're going to sit around and look at them all day in the man cave. I have here the New York Ripper special edition I got from a local store recently. What's really cool about it is these clamshells, they're a little bit tighter around the tape itself, but it's a good illustration of that. Sometimes you got reversible cover art on these, and that was kind of an upgrade, but at its heart it was still just a regular old VHS tape. Even though it was a collector's item, this tape right here is at least a third lighter than the Beastmaster tape I just showed you. And you got to look at the sticker on it too. It's just plain black and white text. There's no logo on it or anything like that. Probably part of the company's way of releasing it, but just showing you how the quality just kind of went down over the years for VHS. These were in abundance there, probably right at the end of VHS. Just kind of like I say, the bigger movies that came out or more collector's item type movies got put out on these. Just a little visual for you. Now, the ever popular dust cover. That's right, guys. This is what you saw most of probably the last 10 to 15 years of VHS. It made it more cost effective, plus it saved room on the shelf. But you can definitely see a size difference if you put these two together. See the big size difference? Not only that way, but this way as well. See, you got about maybe a third, 2/3. It's probably even just about half the size of the big box. The dust cover, tape flies right out, guys. There's no protection to it. Really, it just lives up to its name. It keeps the dust off the tape. And it doesn't really even do it that good because the bottom doesn't close. Really the only way to keep these dust free is to just not take them out of the plastic, but that kind of defeats the purpose of even watching the movie. Play Misty for me is my visual for this one. They still put the logo on these stickers, but the stickers on these newer tapes, or the later ones that were more mass produced, after the VHS boom took off and everything started getting cheaper, well, in order to keep it going, the quality started suffering even more. Not only is the plastic of the tape a little bit lighter, if you drop this tape right here on this hardwood floor I'm standing on, I guarantee it would break into about 3 different pieces. And then you'd have to play surgery, which I've had to do back in the VHS days. I've had to take a couple of reel-to-reels out and switch them out with some blank tapes. And usually only did that if it was a hard-to-find tape, but anyhow, I digress. The old dust covers didn't really serve much of a purpose, just to give you a little bit of cover art, a little bit of info, and some very, very basic protection. Can't say too much about them because there's really not much to them. There you have it, guys. That's the evolution of VHS. Let's talk a little bit about, let me get a little sip of coffee here. Let me take a little break here, guys. I've been running my mouth a little bit here. Pardon me there, pardon me. Got to keep my fuel in me. What I want to talk about next, guys, is kind of the back burner format that was always there behind the scenes in the VHS tape wars, and even up past the release of DVD for a few years after that, till about the year of 2000, if I'm not mistaken. What I'm talking about is Laserdisc. These big behemoths, albeit they're thin, they still take up these big old 12-inch tall, 14-inch tall binders that they came in, basically, or sleeves as they were called. There's not too much of an evolution of these that I can talk about, mainly because you can get thinner on the shelf probably in Laserdisc if they don't do a fold out, which I'm going to show you in a minute. But you still got the height difference. It's like a big LP record, and if you got a disc that's this big, there's little that you can do with making it smaller in package. So the only thing you can hope for is a thinner packaging, which I've got a little visual here I can show you. Braveheart Special Edition on Laserdisc. I wasn't with Laserdisc all along because it was always way too expensive. I went with the cheap format like everybody else with VHS because that's what I could afford. But Laserdisc, I've just gotten into it over the last year. If you've been watching my videos, I just got a few of them just to play around with the format. I'm kind of a format hound, and I'm basically an all-around movie geek, so I don't know, I got a few of them, but it gives it a fair representation. You can get some cool artwork, fold-outs like this, but it's double the space on the shelf. It's about double the size and thickness of the binder. Still, it's a little bit heavier in grade of paper, but you're going to get dinged up corners, of course, because it's like an LP record. It's not a plastic case that you put these in, unless you get one of those really hyper uber special editions like T2 came out in. It's a big leather bound square case that it came in. I've seen videos on that. I don't own it, but there you have Braveheart in the special edition. I've got my Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome here to show as kind of like a thinner, more cost-effective, just there's not a fold out to it, it's just a singular sheath that goes over it. Mind you, it's still the same size Laserdisc and all, but it's just a little bit thinner. You can see it's about half the size and width there, but it saves a little bit of room. That's why I just wanted to show you those guys, and not to say that Laserdisc quality went down. It's just that a simple fact of Laserdisc, if it wasn't a special edition that was being put out in double disc format or something like that, they were just all a bit thinner. Not to say that any quality was lost, because Laserdisc was kind of the grandfather, if you will, of DVD. You really have to respect the elder of DVD, or excuse me, respect the elder of Laserdisc for that one thing. They really kept up their quality in sleeves. They might have been a little bit thinner, but it's all about the same. So I have to give a little bit of props for Laserdisc, even though it's a dead format and it's not coming back. It did kind of keep quality up along the way, even though it's too expensive for the average Joe. Anyway, that's all I'm going to talk about Laserdisc for today. I think I'll pause here for part 1. Join me in part 2 when I get into down and dirty, quality challenged days of packaging for DVD, Blu-ray, and HD DVD. Take care, dudes, and I'll see you next time.